before President Bashar al-Assad, Dr. Wael Halaqi is sworn in as Prime Minister. Syrian armed forces continue to chase terrorist groups in Aleppo neighborhoods, inflicting heavy losses on them. And the Ta'if city joins revolution against Al Saud, and new areas erupt in Bahrain against Saudi occupation and the Khalifas. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian Arab television in Damascus. This just in. An armed terrorist group detonated 2 explosive devices, one in Al-Marja Square and the other near Tishreen Sports Complex, and opened fire randomly there. Security forces are pursuing these groups, and news reports about clashes in Damascus city are untrue. Before President Bashar al-Assad, Dr. Wael Halaqi was sworn in as Prime Minister. President al-Assad last Thursday issued decree number 298 appointing al-Halaqi as Prime Minister. Al-Halaqi was born in Daraa in 1964. He holds a medical degree from Damascus University that he got in 1987. He served as Director of Healthcare Directorate in Jassim City between 1997 to 2000 and became Secretary of Daraa branch for Ba'ath Arab Socialist Party from 2000 till 2004. In 2010, he served as Chief of Syria's Doctors. Dr. al-Halaqi served as the Minister of Health in the current and former government. He is married with 4 children. The Syrian Al-Ikhbariya channel announced that its news team comprising Yara Saleh, Hatim Abu Yahya, Abdullah Tabbara and Hussam Imad were abducted in Tel Amnin area in Damascus countryside. The channel held the armed terrorist groups and the countries supporting them fully responsible for the safety of the team members. The channel issued appeals to the Arab information ministers, journalist unions and international and civil organizations to intervene immediately to release the news team without harming any of its members. Syrian Arab forces continue to chase terrorist groups in Aleppo neighborhoods, inflicting heavy losses on them. More about that in the following report.
After clearing the Salah ad-Din neighborhood from terrorists, the units of the armed forces clashed with a terrorist group that tried to attack the law enforcement forces in Al-Faid neighborhood, inflicting heavy losses on the terrorists. The army also chased down armed terrorist groups that committed killing, kidnapping, and sabotage acts in Al-Aziz area and in Saif ad-Dawla neighborhoods in Aleppo. An official source in the city said that the armed forces units inflicted heavy losses upon the terrorists, killing and wounding many of them. The source added that an army unit repelled an armed terrorist group that positioned itself near the Muhammad Qassar school in Al-Shuhada neighborhood in Masakin Hananu, killing and injuring scores of terrorists while the rest fled. The authorities seized the terrorist weapons and ammunition. They also seized confiscated cameras and communication devices that were in their possession. In Al-Maadi neighborhood, another unit in cooperation with the locals chased down a mercenary terrorist group who tried to take down and control the neighborhood, and they forced them out.
The mercenary terrorists are fleeing Aleppo after the success of the Syrian Arab Army in cleaning the city from terrorist groups, which claimed that their withdrawal was tactical.
The British newspaper, The Independent, said in a report published by its correspondent in Aleppo that hundreds of terrorists are fleeing the city, leaving their weapons and their ammunition behind. The Daily added that despite the fact that the opposition denied withdrawing from the Salah ad-Din neighborhood, the picture on the ground clarifies that the Syrian army is completely controlling the Salah ad-Din neighborhood, which was the main stronghold of the gunmen before the entry of the army. The newspaper pointed out that the gunmen began to flee other areas in the city, and after their humiliation and their defeat in the Salah ad-Din neighborhood.
The competent authorities continue to chase the terrorist groups in several areas, arresting and killing a large number of them.
The competent authorities continue to chase armed terrorist groups in the town of Tel Mnain in Damascus countryside, killing and injuring dozens of them, arresting a large number of the terrorists and confiscating their weapons. While chasing the terrorists, the competent authorities carried out a distinguished operation that resulted in the release of 10 of the security forces who had been kidnapped earlier by the armed terrorist groups. In Deir ez-Zor, the competent authorities chased an armed terrorist group that tried to attack the residents in Al-Villat al-Baladiya neighborhood, inflicting heavy casualties among their ranks. In Deir ez-Zor countryside, the competent authorities also chased another terrorist group which attacked citizens in the town of Khsham and prevented them from reaching their work. The operation resulted in the killing of many terrorists, among them Khalil Muhammad and Khalid al-Shami. In the city of Muhassan in Deir ez-Zor countryside, the competent authorities destroyed a hideout which was used by the terrorists to store ammunition and weapons. Many terrorists were killed and wounded. In Al-Muwazzafin and Al-Aridi neighborhoods, the competent authorities chased the terrorists, killing and injuring many of them, including the terrorists Ubayda al-Jabir and Isa Jaddu al-Sheikh. The competent authorities also repelled another terrorist group which tried to attack the citizens in Al-Mayadin city. Among the terrorists who were killed, Awad Abdul Hamid al-Aqul and Ahmad Khalil al-Badawi. In Hama, the engineering units defused 2 bombs, each weighing 20 kilograms, planted by the armed terrorist groups in a residential area near Al-Tatan Mosque, west of the city. They were connected with a remote control and intended to inflict double explosions targeting civilians. In Daraa, the competent authorities chased terrorist groups in the town of Sayda, killing a large number of them, including the terrorists Yasser Taysir Sbeh and Anas Muhammad al-Masri.
And Homs security forces clashed with terrorists driving 2 vehicles equipped with Dushka machine guns as they have tried to attack the law enforcement forces in Al-Ghassaniya town in Al-Qasir countryside. An official source in the city said that the 2 cars were destroyed and the terrorists inside them were killed. Army units also confronted 2 terrorist groups in Al-Za'faraniya neighborhood in the city's countryside and in Al-Sultaniya, inflicting heavy losses on them. 10 citizens from Admin al-Sharqiya village in Homs countryside were martyred when a terrorist group fired mortar rounds at the village, hitting the house containing the 10 martyrs. The martyrs are Milad Ibrahim Razouk, Ali Ford Qalla al-Gharbi, and his brother Ibrahim Khalil Razouk, and his brother Latif Ilyas Iskantifi, Naim Khalil Razouk, Mayada Sulaiman, Tali Ibtisam Khalil Razouk, and Nadine Sam'ul al-Gharbi. On the highway connecting Ariha with Saraqib, an armed terrorist group fired bullets at a civilian car, killing Walid Bakri, whereas his son, Muhammad, who was with him, was critically injured. Britain has approved the proposal of Russia's representative at the Security Council to discuss the situation in Bahrain in the upcoming session of the Security Council. Diplomatic resources at the UN said that Russia's representative proposed to list the crisis in Bahrain on the Security Council's agenda, adding that Moscow's decision reflected Russia's stance in tackling crises in the Middle East, far from double standards. Youth in Al-Hijaz and Bahrain proved day after another their strong determination to have their freedom and dignity and to get rid from the 2 oppressive rules of Khalifas and Sauds. People took the streets in Al-Qatif in Saudi Arabia and Satra, Snaps, Jad Hafiz and in Bahrain with the motto that freedom of a homeland, choosing to be jailed and not to live under the corrupted rule of Saud's family.
These people choose to martyr in order to set an example to be followed by others to revolt against the Khalifa regime. Thus, their word and their peaceful calls for freedom have proved to be stronger and louder than the inhumane practices and the weapons of Saud and Khalifa regimes. The youth in Al-Ta'if city took to the streets, calling for political prisoners to be released, especially the detained women who have been jailed without a trial by any court. As for the Bahrainis, who have been facing tanks and weapons of the Saudi regime, supported by Al Khalifa troops with their bare hands and bodies, have showed determination and unyielding will to go ahead with their demonstrations, asserting that the martyrs' blood will not be wasted and that they would be the beacon to set an example to end the oppression and the regime.
With this, we conclude our news bulletin for today. For more news about Syria and the region, you can visit our website in English, www